In today's education news, leaders of 4 unions come together to call the Education Secretary to intervene over plans to delay the new inspection framework until September 2026. Now, I made a video about this the other week. So Ofsted are basically delaying till September when they're going to release and announce the new framework because of their consultation process, which reads to me that we all know what they've said. Their reforms are an absolute shambles. And so the feedback clearly isn't very good. And they're having to try and tie everything in. And yeah, it's just a mess. But we knew that anyway. So basically what would happen is they'd release their new inspection framework in September and expect schools to then be inspected with it in November, which I made clear in the video is just going to make everyone's workload go through the roof. Not that Ofsted care about helping or supporting teachers, but that's what's going to happen. This letter sent by the union bosses to the EdSec expresses profound concern about the watchdog's new plan. They say it would create wholly unacceptable pressures on schools and their staff, which everyone knows it will do. Can you imagine the amount of staff meetings and unnecessary paperwork you are going to have to jump through every hoop to get done just in case you get inspected under this new framework, and you'll have 2 months whilst you're still doing the job of teaching to prepare for it. And what really caught my eye, and I'm here for this, is that the unions are considering asking leaders to actually quit their role as being an inspector. Now look, I've always made it clear, I know there's some great inspectors out there. I also know there's some not so good ones, and they're the ones that let the rest of them down because they're the ones who create the inconsistent process, come in with agendas, judge schools unfairly, cause all this stress, pressure, and so on. But to be fair, I think at the minute, everything about Ofsted can create some of that. For transparency, I have had a few messages from schools saying that their inspection was fine, was fair, the inspectors were good, which is what you want. But that tends to be the exception. That should be the case every inspection. Look, I know some people go into it becoming an inspector because they want to change it from the inside. They want to have that positive impact, and that's fine. I don't think you can change it at the minute from the inside. It's too far gone. It actually needs proper reform, but not reform itself. I personally don't think I could work for an inspectorate who were found guilty in a coroner's inquest to have contributed to the death of a colleague. I couldn't work for an inspectorate like that. That's just me. Now, I've always assumed that the reason most leaders and head teachers become inspectors is because they get that inside scoop. They get all the training materials. It's almost like a cheat code so that then they can then best prepare their school. And I'd love to see how many leaders who are Ofsted inspectors have the best grades with Ofsted. I'd love to have like if I had the time, a freedom of information request to see that data, because I think that's probably the case. But I did meet an inspector who was a head teacher, and he was a lovely guy, and he basically said to me that the reason he became an Ofsted inspector was that the money he gets paid to be out of school to do the inspections is actually help him keep staff in his school. And without him doing that job, he would have to get rid of, because of the way budgets are, he would have to let go of some support staff, which he just wasn't willing to do, which I think is absolutely fair enough. But again, doesn't that just speak volumes about the current state of our education system when that's the case? So if things go forward the way they've been proposed, that Ofsted release their inspection framework September, start inspecting in November, the unions have said it leaves leaders with an unfeasible narrow window of time in which to prepare for a completely new and radically different inspection framework, which is absolutely common sense. Why we're even having this discussion, I don't know. It will significantly add to workload pressures, negatively affect leaders and teachers' well-being and mental health, and further undermine trust in the proposed framework. Bang on. So the unions are saying that unless there are changes to both the time frame and the implementation and just the whole 5-point colour grading Nando's restaurant nonsense, they're going to consider encouraging members to withdraw their service as Ofsted inspectors in the autumn term. Now, just over 2/3 of Ofsted's contracted inspectors are serving teachers or leaders in schools, which makes you think we need to see the data. How many of these schools have got the top Ofsted grade because they're getting that inside knowledge, which is something that's always been a bugbear of mine. It's like, be transparent with all your training data. Don't just allow those teachers and leaders who are contracted to Ofsted to have all that information. Make sure everyone can access it. But if the unions do go forward, this could be a significant step in actually bringing about the necessary change that needs to happen. Ofsted say it exists to keep children safe and raise standards. No, it doesn't. It doesn't raise standards. It checks standards. I'm sick to death of them perpetuating this lie that Ofsted do something they don't. Do you think there is a single teacher, if you're a teacher watching this, as an inspector, have made you a better teacher? No. So they don't raise standards, they check them. And inspectors do vital work to improve children's lives. Now, that's what Ofsted should do. But in the current system, that's not what Ofsted is. Or if you're going to claim that, let's add another sentence on to say, but Ofsted are also the major reason why, for the third year running, over 40,000 teachers have left the profession. We'll have to see what happens, but I don't think it's rocket science. It seems to me absolute common sense that if you're going to release this new inspection in September, you have got to give schools more than 2 months to prepare for it and to get used to it. I'd love a case where whatever the new framework is, doesn't make workload go through the roof exponentially. I can't see that happening because fundamentally, I don't think Ofsted care about teachers' well-being, right? Their new reforms don't really show that they have listened to and acted upon the findings from their own internal inquest into what happened after Ruth Perry's case and the coroner's findings. I don't think they are learning the lessons. So it will make workload go through the roof. It's just whether it's going to put some schools at a really unfair position where they've only got a month to prepare for the inspection.